we're here. We're here to chat about things related to the Warhammer 40,000 hobby and/or miniature-related hobby. I'm here with my brother Eric and our good friend Nick, who goes by K0rdhal on Instagram. Nice to
Hey
have both of
everybody.
you here.
Yeah, hey.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. It's good to have you back.
You
I
are
mean
like our most prolific hobby friend.
yeah, you're always building stuff
And
Yeah, it's just
and
oh,
sculpting stuff. More so
oh,
than
it just it
anything, I feel.
the inspiration just grabs me. I'll be at work, I'll be putting beer in cans, I'll be sitting there, and then I'll be suddenly like, oh man, that'd be a really cool conversion. And then suddenly I'm like doing a mental tally of my like bits box in my head. I'm like, could I do it? And I'm like, yes, I can. And then I go home and I make it.
yeah, it's amazing. Because I feel every so often I will go back and look through your Instagram and just see like, oh my goodness, like in like even just the past year you've made so many cool, really out there like sculpts and conversions and stuff, and like yeah, I love it.
It's
Well,
true.
it's been great. Well, especially because I remember the way back when I was first sort of getting back into the hobby and sort of end of my master's year. I remember
Mhm.
emailing you guys with much trepidation, being like, "Oh, I really love their true scale," and then just like it was amazing because I remember interacting with you guys on the ammo bunker, and then getting
Mhm.
sculpting tips and advice from you guys, and like scaling tips, and like then like tips from modern synthesis. And it's just been really great. Like it's not just I definitely can't take credit for it all. It's definitely like it's been such a nice sort of community building and like helping each other, which has been so
Yeah,
great.
it is a great community, and I think
Mm,
it's nice how fairly easy it is to reach out to people and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I feel most of
'cause
the people, if you send them like a message on Instagram, they're more than happy to chat with you and give suggestions
Mhm.
or answer questions.
Yeah, no, it's true. Do we
I
just want to
also
start
yeah,
recording this soon? I
yeah,
realized
I'm
I
I'm
didn't.
happy to start recording.
You can finish your thought though, there, Nick.
I just really like the fact that I know there's a sad thing about blogs with blogs dropping off because of
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, but also Instagram I think has really democratized the hobby. Like
Mm,
it feels like you can actually it's much easier to curate what you want to see, but also
Mm-hmm.
as you said, it's easier to reach out to people. People can post things, you can see things in stories. Like quite often I will look at something in a story and I'll be like, oh damn, I never thought of trying that technique. Oh, I'll go look at that YouTube video they made, or oh
Mm-hmm.
damn, that's a really cool project. Oh, I want to read more about it, or something like that. So it's really been great for sort of opening up my hobby space and also realizing that I can do my own vision of the hobby. And like that's what I mostly been doing now. I'm just like, screw it. I'm gonna do what I
Yeah.
envision XYZ is. I don't care about any other people. And it's quite a freeing like thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't care like if someone says to me, oh, blah 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 blah, in M37, the Marines wouldn't use the Mark 3 tuner based bolter or something like that, then I'm like, I don't care. Like, it's my hobby. I'm gonna do what I want. It's a fake history, so
with an
Yeah, that's the truth.
unreliable narrator.
yeah,
Nah, yeah, that's true. And yeah, Instagram is much easier to actually see a broad range of people
Mhm.
and it not to be so um otherwise it's very easy to just stick in the same circle of people with the blogs and stuff, and there just weren't as many people involved doing it. So I feel Instagram is great in that regard.
yeah,
More accessible, easier to like view even just for a very short while, whereas with blogs and stuff, most of the time there's more writing and reading involved, which is great, but you don't necessarily always have the time to wade through all that.
And now with
yeah.
those Instagram reels, like things are just opening up.
Oh
There are
no,
too
no.
many of them. Like and like all the
I'm
stories, the
not
reels,
stories, I'm talking about
the real.
reels,
Yeah.
Oh
which is
jeez, as long
essentially
as
their
Warhammer
TikTok
doesn't transfer to
equivalent.
TikTok, I'm gonna be happy.
Oh, I'm already on TikTok.
Oh no. Oh no!
I have a
Hey
TikTok
guys,
account
here's how you
for.
true scale a space marine,
I
and
do
with some
have a
like
TikTok
funky
account
modern
for
music stuff.
for the blog. I
That's
do.
fun.
Oh,
Well, I think
I
you
you
mean,
do
actually,
jazzy dances and stuff like that.
well, you
it's
have
not
actually a
that
bunch of
exciting.
little videos and stuff about how painting stuff, building stuff. Like,
Most of them are just like 360 shots of models, but I did make a couple kind of shoddy videos about how I paint archangels and stuff like that. If anything, it was
yeah,
more just a experiment and filming some stuff with the thought maybe at some point I will try to make more substantial videos for something else, but
mm-hmm.
there aren't, or at least from what I've seen, there aren't a ton of people doing TikTok Warhammer stuff. They're certainly there, but there aren't a ton.
Yeah, we'll just wait and see.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, maybe let's just get into the official podcast portion, and then afterwards, if we want to keep chatting about this or that, we can do that.
Sounds good.
Um, if people are ready, I'm just gonna start it, and I'm not gonna play the intro music. I'll just add that in post.
Sounds good. I'm ready.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dragged into Turbolasers, a Between the Bolter and Me podcast. This is episode 89, and I'm your host, Eric Wire, with my brother, Adam Wire.
Hey, everybody.
And I'm excited that our friend Nick, or known as K0rdhal online, is also back to talk with us again. How's it going, Nick?
Pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. Can't complain. Can't complain.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah, I suppose we had you on maybe around February of this year, so almost a year ago now. Hard to believe, talking about Zone Secundus, that sort of uh, downtrodden Necromunda project. I guess since then, what have you been up to? Are you still working on some of that, or have you
Uh,
moved to other projects?
well, I've kind of got that bubbling away, but oh man, I've been very heavily involved in Apologist's War of the False Primarch project. So that
Mm-hmm.
started about this time last year, and that's been really fun because it's not really an army building project. Some people are, but it's like a nice way to sort of focus and make stuff marine, especially marine wise or otherwise that I just enjoy making. And it sort of taught me how to paint Space Marines in a fun way again, because I think I started to get a lot of resentment towards painting Space Marines. So I enjoyed building them because of just all the edge highlighting and all this like trying to get the
Uh-huh.
heavy metal style. And then I just started painting my sons like the watercolor, very like messy, kind of
Mm-hmm.
lots of
Mm-hmm.
glazing, and it actually worked really nicely. And I was like, this is just so much more easy and much more fun to
Yeah,
do. So
that's good
I went.
because anything you can do to, yeah, reduce the pain and reduce the, your tendency to just put things off, the better.
Mm.
It's easy to do. I do it
And
a
then
lot.
I've done a Mechanicus kill team for that as well, which I've actually played a game with and really enjoyed playing kill team. I realized the new rule set is just so much better than the last rule set, and it's really enjoyable. It feels tense.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it just feels more engaging. It almost has a cinematic quality to it, which I really like. So I'm going to be getting some more games of that in soon. I'm
Oh,
currently
that's
working
good.
I'm also working on an all steam tank AOS list, which is quite fun because I realize I hate making mass regiments of models because, except for the Necrons, they're super easy to paint because it's
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
easy.
Mm-hmm.
But with this, I was looking around at lists and it's like, oh, you can do an all steam tank thing. And then I was at Warhammer World. I bought a steam tank. I bought one of the Chaos Lords on the big spider things, and I was like, let's see what I can do. So it's been a lot of fun. I've just kind of been bopping and moving around and doing stuff, which is just what I enjoy most about the hobby, really.
Yeah, having that freedom. Well, do you feel like, is there a group of people that you think you'll be able to play Age of Sigmar with easily?
Yeah, there's a few. There's my friend James, who's goes by the I think it's underscore the Imperium on
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram. he does a lot of really nice grimdark stuff. So he's definitely keen. I've got another couple of people that I know who are keen to do Path to Glory, like slow army builder events. So I'm actually really
Hmm.
determined to kind of get into the playing side of things.
That's cool. Like, and I think playing some more games of Kill Team that very suited to honestly lots of models you've
Mm.
created over the years. And the Empyrean, he has made is recently hasn't he been making some really neat Sisters of Silence and such?
Yeah, because
I feel
we
so,
found
yeah.
we found a really amazing. There's this guy on Instagram. Let me just find him. His account's called. I'm going to just do a bit of a shout out there because his stuff's really cool. It's called Too Thin Quotes, and he does like a lot of unofficial adaptions. So he's working on like a Horus Heresy variant of the new Kill Team rules. So with all the
Mm-hmm.
legions and stuff, and I was reading through it because someone mentioned it. I was like, oh, I'll check this out, and it's actually really really cool, and it's the kind of the ideal thing for me for the Horus Heresy is because actually I the Horus Heresy is very much about master ranks and like big
Mm-hmm.
blocks of power armor, and this is just more interesting, more narrative to me. So I've been working on a
It's
little Black
fun.
Shield
Yeah.
warband to go with, and we've got my little group that we have on Instagram. We're all doing a meetup in March, and we're hopefully going to play
Ooh.
some like Heresy uh, Kill Team at Warhammer World to just kind of tell a little
Mm-hmm.
story in the vein of like an Inc. 28 event, and I'm really excited about that.
That's cool, because didn't even for the Horus Heresy, like the series of novels, at least a few of them were about like a Black Shield group, or I think. I mean, admittedly, I don't think I ever actually read any of them, but so yeah, it's neat to be able to explore some of those avenues that isn't as much the bigger black books for the heresy, because most of those, like kind of like you said, is very sort of global focused and
Mm.
the larger picture of the wars and whatnot. But it's fun to be able to approach it from a slightly smaller scale, a more intimate scale that still gives you freedom to jump around to other things.
Yeah, and it's Kill Team is like again, I feel like you can invest enough time in each model. You feel like you're telling a story, like each model. Like, because
Mm-hmm.
I realize this sounds a bit sort of like hoity-toity, really, but I can't build a model without envisioning like a background or like at
Mm-hmm.
least a piece of like story and how it fits into the world. I just can't do that. I can't just be like, I'm just going to make a marine. I'm like, I have to think, oh, okay, what personality does this marine have? And it actually is more fun, and I feel like I produce more better models than just saying, okay, I'm going to paint 6 Black Templars or 6 Blood Angels. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not disparaging that. If you can do that, you can do that. But for me, I need to know. I need to have a story. I need to have thought. I need to have a background.
Yeah, now that's cool. I feel that anyone who's following your work, I think, knows sort of that defines the stuff you do, and that I think kind of sets you apart from others. I know people do kind of things like that, but I don't view to the extent that you do, and like kind of really go all out there to create unique things, but then actually ground it in some kind of evocative storytelling and narrative pieces, which I think is really fun and honestly something that I wish I did a little more of, but you do what you can.
Yeah, it's just a little. It's little. It gets people to think, or it gets people inspired. Like the amount of times now, and it's really flattering. Like I'm really glad people enjoy them. It's just really nice when I get comments on my work, and they're like, "Oh, what does this mean? I've noticed that you put this in this post, and then on this
Mhm.
post you got on like a similar thing." And I'm like, "Oh, I can like leave little breadcrumbs and just leave
Mhm.
things that like I know in the background what I want it to be, but." I'm never going to
Mhm.
tell, so people can
Mhm.
kind of like fill in the gaps. And I've had people like with my Wormwood sons, like when I started off, I got a message from this guy says, "I love your sons. Can I make some of them?" And I said, "Yeah, go ahead." And now he's one of the main collaborators with me on like this has
Mhm.
become a shared project for the Wormwood sons and
Mhm.
him. And I always
That's
look
nice.
forward to his output, and it's just really great. And it feels nice to have someone build upon your work
Mhm.
and also enhance it.
Yeah, it's nice to also probably just see that people do actually read sort of that stuff and get into it, and that it can be or Instagram can be a little bit more like a blog than I think it's
Mm.
often given credit. A lot of it
Hmm.
obviously is associated with just scrolling and mindlessly liking, which I mean, I am guilty of that as much as probably other people, but it's not always that. Like, I still, will go in and comment and read stuff. So I feel it is, yeah, a nice platform.
Yeah, no, it's
But
nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
Plus,
if
I've
you
met so many people and got in contact with so many amazing hobbyists. Like,
Mhm.
honestly, like it's been fantastic.
yeah, at least they give you the space to put in the text if you're willing to write it.
Hmm.
Mhm. Nah, yeah, it's true. It's true.
So I
So,
guess
how have
do
you
I was gonna say, do we
go?
want to get into like I guess what might be the main topic of the episode?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
happy
nah.
with that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so today we thought we were gonna this is actually a topic that was suggested to us through Instagram. Uh Ben Duane, or Jamjarastronaut, I believe he goes by on Instagram. But he kind of asked if we could cover the topic of hobby burnout, and I feel it's something that people talk about now and again, in particular, at least here, that, like, winter is kind of approaching, that um like daylight saving stuff, like the time has changed, and now at least here gets super dark really
Mm,
early, and it can be a little bit depressing at times, that it's like dark outside almost immediately in the afternoon, and like you feel kind of as though you're trapped inside. And I thought it would be, something fun to talk about, because I think it's something that everyone deals with to some extent, and but how you
mm,
approach it and what you do to sort of still stay motivated with the hobby, or just any of your hobbies or interests, I think can be important to, stay in a healthy mindset and not get, caught up in sort of a dejected state, I
yeah.
suppose. But I guess maybe starting that out, like, is hobby burnout something that you have to deal with a lot, Nick? Is it something that, um, yeah, is prevalent for you?
Well, for me, I'd say like about a year ago, probably a year and 6 months ago, sort of there was a big gap where I was having a hobby. I just kind of moved back home and I was in the throes of writing my thesis and actually like my PhD and stuff like that. It was worthwhile doing, but
Hmm.
it also I really felt a sense of like guilt whenever I was taking free time, and then like a lot of it I just started to lose a lot of the energy through to a lot of factors of like doing the hobby. And
Mm,
I kind of had a brief sort of like period where I just couldn't face doing the hobby, which was it was a real shame. I kind of sat there and it was just kind of like I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to, and I had these ideas, but I just didn't have the drive or the motivation. And it actually took one of my mum to turn around and be like, "Why don't you? You're gonna get back into it this weekend. We've got like a nice desk. Just get
Hmm.
into it." And that was actually
that's
really good because
nice.
it helped kind of push me back on to like wanting to finish my PhD because I had something I could enjoy and do again. But it's tough because I think especially a lot of people feel obligated to finish things, and it's this idea
Hmm.
of like I've had this great idea for an army or XYZ, and then when the vision isn't 100% what it is in your head, like whether it be a conversion or sculpting or painting, it's very easy just to be like, "Oh God, this is terrible. I hate this." Because it's a sense
Hmm.
of disappointment. You've built something up. You've built this
Yeah,
idea of this
yeah.
project. You've got ideas like, "Oh, this army is going to be so good. It's going to be on the front page of Warhammer Community XYZ or whatever." And actually, when it's not quite there, it's really can be quite crushing. I think for a
Hmm.
lot of people. And actually, one of the things I've sort of learned in the last year and a half is like, if you're not enjoying the project, there's nothing wrong with stopping it. Like I often like I will give models that I just know I'm never going to get painted. I'll give them away, or I'll like
Mm-hmm.
trade for them, because actually, you know what, like if you're not enjoying it, you've maybe painted one or two figures and you think actually this is too much work for me, just try something else. And that's what really worked for me. Or like when I felt like I was getting burnt out on one project, I'll pivot to another. I'm like, oh, I haven't made an Inquisitor for a while. Ooh, I read
Mm-hmm.
this really cool piece in a sci-fi book or a fantasy or something from a video game. I'm going to make this, or I'm going to
Hmm.
talk to my mate and do this. And just having like little, almost one-off models where you're like, I'm just going to do this for the sake of hobbying, as it really actually helps and really
Mm-hmm.
puts things in perspective. And just basically just be realistic. Like your idea of what you're going to make in your head is never going to be 100% what it is in your head. Like your conversion, no
Yeah.
matter how good you are, like the perfection in your head, this idea, it's never going to be the same. And actually tempering that and being like, okay, like I've had it where conversions are not going my way, and I've been really tempted to go like, F this, I'm going to throw this in the bin. I hate this so much. And then actually I sleep on it, or I talk to you guys, and then I suddenly have an idea, or someone suggests like a really simple thing. And then I'm like, it's not what I originally envisioned, but it's
Mm-hmm.
better, or it's really satisfying to try and do. So that's kind of how I have
Mm-hmm.
now tried to like counteract burnout.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
mean,
you brought up one of the points that you brought up that I think is very good, and at least I think I certainly ascribe to some of that, is the notion of where a few things. One, if what you're working on, you're not, if it's not like really bringing you joy, or you're not really feeling it, just move on to something else. It doesn't mean you never go back to that, but and then on top of that, the notion of having multiple projects. Like, I know when I'm working on things, like I have tons of different projects going on at once, and a lot of them are at sort of different stages, whether they're like ready for paint, or like I just have collected the pieces together that I want to use for a project, or I'm within the whole building sculpting portion. And I think having lots of different little projects or larger projects at different stages, I think can help, if because I guess everyone has lots of other things going on in their life, and like depending on like what you're feeling like that evening or that day, like I don't always want to sit down and sculpt like
Mm.
like like armor, or sculpt belts or whatever. Or I don't always want to sit down and like try and do all this freehand painting or whatever. And so having lots of different things at different stages sort of allows you have options of things you could start doing. And even if it's only for like 10 minutes or something, at least you're getting in there and doing something.
well, yeah, well, I guess towards that end, I feel most of us have some like backlog of models or boxes like that we've never done anything with, just boxes stored away. That I feel if you can get in the mindset that like you don't have to just do one thing, and you can pull out something else to consider, I think, yeah, that can be helpful. Because yeah, just like, oh, I can't do that, I need to finish painting my 2000 points of Tyranids or whatnot, like that I feel could be very innovating very quickly over time, particularly if there isn't like a deadline or something holding you to that. But I think just the to remember that it is supposed, like, it is a hobby, it's something that's supposed to bring you joy and sort of reduce your anxiety, hopefully, that's stemming from life and just all those things. If you can keep it to be something you enjoy and not turn it into like a second job
Like I
or
have to post something on Instagram every week, or I think, I guess we're sort of related to that. I know Instagram can be a great thing in that it can connect hobbyists and inspire you to do all sorts of different stuff, but it can also be the type of thing where like maybe you're trying to work on something, and you're just constantly barraged by all these incredible cool models and stuff, and in some ways that can sort of like sap energy from you, thinking like, wow, like I spent all this time working on stuff, but I like only like finished this one model, and like look at all these other people who like they converted, sculpted, painted, and like all this stuff. And so like I feel that is something that I've sort of worked towards and decided that your enjoyment shouldn't be based on other people. And um
Yeah, I feel it's your own hobby journey. Like, not everyone has the same priorities and such.
mhm,
And, obviously that can shift and change as you're building and creating stuff, and probably should change, but still keeping it focused on your own enjoyment out of things. Like a hobby, it doesn't, like, you're not, in some sense, like, you're not supposed to be an expert. It's supposed to be a
yeah.
relaxing hobby thing.
I
So,
think also what really I find is useful on Instagram is just to follow a huge breadth of different hobbyists, actually, because if I can imagine, like, if you're just following like pro painters or like pro
mhm,
sculptors, it's incredibly disheartening. And actually, if you follow like a load of people that is like, and I'm not being disparaging here, of like different skills and different like levels or different ideas, it's much nicer because you get like a whole breadth of like seeing someone and you're like, oh damn, they're really like they're attempting this really cool conversion. And you're like, oh, that's really cool. Or, oh, they've painted it in a completely different style to, say, Golden Demon winner number one, two, three,
mhm,
four, or something like that. And actually realizing like it's your time, it's your hobby, like what you focus on. If you're like, I don't like painting in a certain style, I'm going to paint that style. Do that. Like if it works for you, if it makes you happy and means you can complete a project, yeah, why not? Like, but I think a lot of people, it's that again, like you said, it's like this thing of like performative of like I have to do X, Y, Z, and you
Mhm.
don't. It's your the hobby is big enough that you're always going to find people who like your work, and there's always going to be people who dislike your work, and actually, like that's just a fact of life, really.
Yeah.
And I just think also just do it for yourself is a really important thing of like it's got to be for you, not for anyone else. Like anyone else liking it is a bonus. It's the cherry on top. But if
Mhm.
you don't enjoy it, then you got to reassess things.
And yeah, you're
yeah,
the whole notion of following all sorts of different people, like, and that includes like artists and like all sorts of stuff, because yeah, and like authors, like anything, because all of those things, like if you have a big breadth of different things that you're sort of consuming and looking at, you never really know where like inspiration is going to come from. And even
mhm,
just like the smallest details of things can like really at least get my mind thinking about different things and think like, wow, you know what, I haven't seen this explored a whole lot in whatever it is you're working on. So that I think also, yeah, is a good thing to think about and can help
mhm.
with all of that.
Yeah, actually, Weirding Way recently posted something kind of along this vein about how um, they've been struggling a little bit to do hobby related stuff, in that they think it had started to veer a little bit too close to being a job, because started to do a lot of like complete sculpting stuff completely himself, and started to cast some things and sell them, which is really cool. And like he is selling a few of his like navigator busts, which are great. And yeah, we have a few of them that I think he has an Etsy page for that. And like
Hmm.
that's is certainly fun. And I'd certainly, if that's something you want to do, certainly go ahead and do that sort of thing. But it can verge and be draining at times when it's if it starts to feel that the hobby you enjoy has become a job.
And I,
Particularly
yeah,
if you have another job.
yeah, when I know the whole notion of I can sympathize with like getting into casting and stuff like that. It while it opens up a lot of different opportunities, it is a lot of work, and particularly like maybe if you're working on some model and then you realize you have to stop for a few days to like pass the components and all this other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, it
Can
can be
be a
rough.
lot. But I guess even in his recent post, kind of talking about that, he mentioned that he's still getting some relaxation watching movies and doing other things. So,
Mm.
I mean, I think that's something too that you don't have to always be
Mhm.
involved in this hobby, and doing other things you enjoy is good too, and that will likely, as you sort of suggested, Nick, will likely feed back into the hobby at some point.
Yeah.
So I think it shouldn't be a source of extra anxiety. I feel we all, just living our lives, have enough of that, whether it's
Yeah.
finishing a degree or some projects at work or um, anything. There's lots of stuff to stress us out, particularly now in an age of COVID and all that sort of stuff. Like it can be easy to feel stress and anxiety from a lot of different points.
Yeah, and I think if that is starting to become the case, taking a step back or just kind of reevaluating what it is you're doing and kind of figuring out, are there ways you can sort of change what you're doing such that you'll rid yourself of that anxiety. And even if it's like, you know what, I'm going to take a step back from social media for like a few weeks or months or like whatever, that's completely fine. And I think that should, like, your health and happiness should always take priority.
Hmm.
I guess also related to that, I know, like, for myself and like my two brothers, like one of the ways we've sort of kept motivated is actually just the whole notion of starting a blog and having a blog and sort of having almost like internal goals. Not no
Mm.
goals that we like necessarily put out there on the internet and say like we're going to do this, like hold us to it. So
Hmm.
and that I think has sort of motivated us to continue doing things. Like we sort of always have a goal for the blog to try and get at least 4 blog posts out every month. And
Mm.
Hmm.
there's not like necessarily like they have to be like 2 of them need to be like cool conversions or paint or whatever. That doesn't matter a whole lot. But by having that, I think for the whole time we've had the blog, we've managed to do that. And I mean, some months are obviously way more successful than others, but
Almost 9 years. It's going on nine
wow,
Blimey heck.
complete years. I can't even believe that.
that's a long time. But like, I think that little goal has helped me kind of always, at least to some degree in the background, working on things, even if it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm building this warband for the next event. And um,
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has to be, um, in a controlled, careful way. 'Cause, like, you don't want the deadlines to uh, make make things worse. But I think
Mm.
having some like small things like that can help. And like you were suggesting, Nick, being involved in other like little community things that give you some time frame, like, oh, in like 2 months we'd like to get together at Warhammer World or get together somewhere to play a game or two, can be a nice way to keep you somewhat on task or on track of doing things, even if it's not like super defined. I think is, yeah, is helpful.
yeah, certainly.
Yeah, and I think just also try one thing I really have is like be part of actually, even if they don't have a goal, being part of little groups is always really good because you've always got people trying stuff, giving you tips, giving you advice. And it's just a nice sort of way to kind of, you can say, oh, I'm really not feeling this model, guys, or do you guys have any thoughts? And sometimes they don't, but a lot of the times it can just give you that little motivation.
Hmm.
Like I quite like having a little bit of a deadline because it actually puts of like it gives me like an internal motivation. It's like, okay, I've got to be here and I want to play this. So I have a motivation to do something, whether it's an invitational or
Mm-hmm.
like one of the 28
Mm,
mag competitions. Like that was really good. Like, because I was like, okay, I've built the model. I had it sat on my desk for months, and then I was like, I have a week to paint this, and I
yeah.
suddenly like, bam, and then suddenly my motivation because I was like, oh, I really want to enter this competition, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
and
that was,
yeah, and sometimes you're like, oh, I need to finish painting this in a week. Maybe that gets you like try some slightly different way of painting, and then
mm,
that kind of inspires you to like paint some other things or whatnot. But yeah, I think you touching on the friend groups and stuff, I feel that to me is super important and maybe the most important thing for me to prevent getting like burnt out and just enjoying the hobby more. Like I think the community aspect of it is
Mm-hmm.
such a strong component of it
mm,
and can be super strong even if it isn't like, oh, you go to your local hobby shop every week and have a game club or whatnot, which don't get me wrong, that's great too. But I think particularly with COVID and all these things, like you can have a super and strong friend group, even if it's like from all around the world, just due to Instagram,
mm,
Discord, and spaces like that. And for Adam touched on it for the blog, like I think when we started it, the fact that it's like me and my two other brothers, that was just like a small group that
Mm-hmm.
could kind of keep you honest and keep you excited and working on things that even if you weren't always doing that much, if someone else was, it could get you kind of back excited and engaged on it. And I think this idea of having other friend groups help substantially in a similar way. And like honestly, because of sort of that idea, talking with you here, Nick, like we talk almost daily with some other people in like a small group of friends that most have been on our podcast at some point. And yeah, even if I'm not always building something, like someone else on there is, and you can give
Mm-hmm.
feedback or thoughts, and like that I think is very powerful, and everyone kind of encourages and pushes people to keep trying things and whatnot.
And I guess on top of that, because so like a lot of our little like either Discord chats or like Hangout chats and stuff with fellow hobbyists, um, like you, Nick, they're from people all around the world, and because oftentimes, unless you're really lucky, you're probably not going to have like a whole community of like kit bashers or sculptors or whatever who like live in your neighborhood. And so, like, I think that has helped a lot in that, yes, Eric, you were saying, even if maybe I'm not doing a whole lot, just talking with other people who are working on building or sculpting or painting things, like, I can still, I'm still involved. And based on whatever I'm feeling or doing, like, I can then become more or less involved as needed.
mm,
And
So,
I
yeah.
think also Instagram, it's pretty easy to contact people. And then as mentioned, Discord, there are lots of like cool Discord groups for all sorts of things that I think can be fun to be a part of. But I would still encourage people to get more uh tight knit groups almost.
mm,
Like I think like if you're on like said Inc. 28 Discord, I'm sure there are some of them that can be helpful. But if there are like a couple hundred people on there, it can be somewhat like it isn't always as personal and like it's more easy to get detached from it. But if it's a group of friends that you've developed over the years and like it doesn't always have to be super defined that like in this particular chat room we're only talking about miniatures, but if you're talking about, hey, did you see Dune or did you read this or what was up on the Warhammer community page or anything like that. Just that I think can be nice and a little bit freeing, that like it can just be like you're chatting with your friends.
Yeah.
So similar to what it might be at like a hobby shop, but maybe one of them's from the United States, one of them's from the UK, another one from Finland, or wherever. Like that is fun, and it's something that you wouldn't have really been able to do 15 years ago, but now it's relatively easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was
Go
gonna
ahead,
say,
Adam.
yeah, just get out there, like try and start talking with and contacting people that like
Yeah.
you like their work. Like I would like to say you'll be pleasantly surprised at how receptive at least most of them are to questions and comments and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just also want to stress as well, like none of us have a Patreon. None of us have paywalls for any of our stuff. So, like for me personally, if you have a question of how I do things, just drop me a line, or you say, "Oh, I have this idea, but I don't know how to go about it." I'm very happy to chat with anyone, really. Like as long as you're
Hmm.
nice and polite, then I'm really happy. Like just please drop me a DM, even if it's like, oh, I'm having hobby burnout, or I'm having hobby anxiety. How did you deal with it, or what did you do? I'm very happy to talk to people about that because one, I think it's good to be open about this stuff.
Hmm.
Kind of destigmatizes it and kind of also makes it's like it's okay not to feel like you have to do things constantly and be a content producing machine. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
just like really like for me, just message me. Just I'm very happy to chat. Like again, time zones, I might not be able to answer you if it's 4 in the morning at my time, but I will get around to answering your message. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I certainly encourage anyone to contact us in a similar way, and that like it is so easy to do, and I don't know, yeah, it can help put things into perspective and not spiral um out of control into sort of like negative spaces. Just being able to talk to somebody else. But yeah, I mean, it also mentioned like ultimately, I think a lot of us got into this hobby to be a hobby and a relaxing thing. So if it isn't that for you at this moment, like, but you're excited about some Netflix show or heard about some book, or just it's nice weather outside, like would certainly
yeah,
just encourage people to go out and do other things too, that I think you'll probably get pulled back when the
Hmm.
time is right, or if you do have a group of friends like we were talking about, maybe that will help naturally lead you into
yeah.
something else. So
Also,
I think just not to be too stressed about it
yeah,
helps.
and the most random things can provide you inspiration. Like I quite often, I started when I got back into the hobby. I ended up watching. I like to have something on the background, whether it be an audiobook, watching a YouTube video, or a Netflix show that I can kind of phase out of while but still pay attention to. I ended up watching a
Hmm.
lot of. I've watched all of RuPaul's Drag Race a lot of times, like repeatedly as
Yeah.
a background. But you see stuff. You see some of the designs. You see some of
Hmm.
the like the cool costumes they do, and you're like, oh man, that would be amazing for an inquisitor or like a nobleman or
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
navigator. And you can just find these moments of inspiration in the most things that you would think. Because I don't think anyone's going to go like, oh yeah, RuPaul's Drag Race, great Warhammer inspiration. But you'd be so surprised, like
I
really. And
mean,
just if you think,
yeah.
yeah, it's great, and it's watch shows, watch things that you wouldn't expect. Like I've had all sorts of things on in the background where I've watched it, and I'm like, oh man, I hadn't thought of that, or it somehow puts an association in my head, and you're suddenly like, oh damn, like some of my best inspiration has been when I've been doing very inane things not related to
Uh-huh.
the hobby at all.
Well, and even if it's just like, oh, you're watching the latest episode of the Great British Bake Off, and it's just such a happy, positive mindset,
Mm,
can just honestly be helpful as well to like sort of reduce your stress and
Hmm.
just get you like, yeah, I'll start trimming a model or whatnot. So, yeah, I think it's just helpful to
And
keep things in perspective. And
also, there's a one great thing that my supervisor always used to say to me, and actually I kind of dismissed at the time, but now perfection is the enemy of good. Like nothing, if you determine to make a perfect model, you will never be happy with it. But if you think, okay, I can improve some things, but I'm actually really happy with this, that's much better for you than trying to say, okay, I'm going to redo this completely. And it doesn't necessarily apply all the time. Like if you want to try and do perfection, you really want to try and push yourself, that's that's your cup of tea. But that's something I've always kind of remembered now of like, yeah,
hmm
okay, this is not 100% what I envisioned it, but I'm actually very happy with how it's turned out.
Yeah, yeah, because you'll have certainly learned something in the process, and in some sense, it can be nice to then, like, yeah, just move on to the next model, and then have almost like a timeline of what you had done like a year ago, and
Yeah.
like see that you have improved. Like I know I've certainly seen that in the stuff I've painted and created, and it's nice to see that. And in a lot of cases, being able to like finish something is very satisfying, and to see some gray model that sat on your shelf for like much longer than you wanted it to to get finished is, yeah, is can be really nice.
And also, I'm getting a bit of being a bit preachy here, but except that people are going to do things differently. It's like Adam and my sculpting techniques are completely different. Like Adam
Hmm.
is very meticulous. He'll take breaks. Like I try and do as much sculpting as possible, and I will only
Yeah,
stop when I'm forced
amazing.
to stop, or if or I smear something, and I'm like, right, Nick, you really should let this dry. So, and but that the thing is like and it's great. Like I see Adam's stuff and I don't go, oh god damn it, I really should be doing that. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
damn, that's really really cool. And I'm not attempting to compare myself to
Hmm.
your technique. And I think I hope it's the same vice versa. And like you can learn stuff as well. Like I'll ask
hmm
Adam like, oh, how did you do this? And he'll be like, oh, I did that. And then I'm like, okay, maybe I should slow down when trying to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah,
No,
your
I
next
mean,
sculpting project, you should try to slow down and see how it affects things.
well, I think just in general, like looking at other things and trying to learn from other people, but ultimately, you need to find out what works for you and how you
hmm
most enjoy doing the stuff. So, like, I think that should sort of be one of your primary goals is just initially figure out what you like doing the most and then just work on that.
Well, because
Because
also sculpting the way you do really quick like that, I mean, it has to help. Like it's similar to like if you spend time trying to do speed painting, and like it helps you determine like what are the core tenets, the things that are most important, and
mhm.
be able to focus and do, you know, achieve like this high level result with like less time than you thought maybe would have been necessary like a year ago. And there's certainly a lot of value in that.
And
And also, if you again, sorry, it's just as one more thing to say on this. Like, if you're like, oh, I'm sick of Warhammer 40k, don't feel obliged to stick to a system. If you're like, oh, I saw an Underworlds warband I'd really like to convert for, say, Warcry, or I wanted to try this, or anything even outside the GW system. Like, I'm really interested in Turnip 28. They've just released their new,
mhm.
completely
hmm
free rule book. It looks fantastic. It looks like a really simple but deep game, and it's really cool. Like they it specifically says in the rule book like no army should be more than 30 models, and actually that's quite a reasonable target, and it's a
Yeah, yeah.
fascinating aesthetic. So just sometimes if you're like, I don't know, I'm not feeling any GW inspiration, try something else.
So I guess related to some of that stuff, like maybe we could try and come up with like summarize some of the main points that we
Mm,
touched on here,
mm.
and like we're since maybe we didn't prepare as much as we could have, um, we
Never.
could, yeah, well, we could at least work through some of these. Like
Yeah.
I guess one of the things is maybe one of the more important things is just the notion if you're not having fun with what you're doing, you don't need to continue with it, or at least just kind of examine what it is you're not liking or you are liking and try and sort of change what you're doing. Um, next, try and get like a group of friends or other hobbyists or inspirations that you can kind of build on or work with to keep yourself going and trying and doing new things. Um, Kind of having some like internal goals or just a lot of different projects going at once at different stages and kind of help get you working and into doing things even if you don't necessarily have a lot of time to focus on anything. um, what are other things?
Yeah, I feel maybe just the last thing that I would add to that is just try to keep things in perspective. Like there's always going to be ups and downs. There're going to
Yeah.
be work that gets more stressful or classes or something, and just realize that's going, is going to
Mm.
happen. But the more that you can keep the hobby as something that you enjoy to help alleviate some of that, the better. But if there's like, you feel like, I can't do that, like it's a bit too much, but I'm just gonna sit and read a book, like, yeah, that's good too. Just, yeah, keep it in that light that it should be something fun, and I think it'll work out and you'll find yourself back doing like the hobby stuff that you enjoy.
And I'm going to reiterate: perfection is the enemy of good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Uh-huh.
I like that. That's
Yeah, well, I
true.
think I think that maybe sums up some of this stuff pretty well. And
Mm.
yeah, I would encourage people to, yeah, just keep at it and ultimately have fun with the hobby that you're doing. And I think that will, you know, go a long way.
And don't be afraid to reach out and try and talk with or contact other fellow hobbyists that you like their work, because I feel a lot of them are more than happy to like talk about like their process or give suggestions or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. I mean, all of us here certainly are.
Yeah.
Oh, most definitely.
And
I guess with that, do you have any final words, Nick?
I think
words.
we've pretty much covered a lot of the bases. Just have fun, try and do something crazy. Like sometimes that's where I break up monotony with projects. I sometimes think, what if I just come up with a new abhuman, or
Mm-hmm.
I
Steam
haven't seen this
tanks.
done
What
before.
about those? Like
Hmm.
steam
Steam
tanks.
tanks,
What
yeah, yeah,
about
yeah.
those? Like
Steam tanks. Yep, I love them. I was like, it combined a couple of my favorite book series.
yeah.
They're technically young adult books. Mortal Engines by Philip Reeve,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
extremely cool inspiration for Age of Sigmar. Check it out. Don't watch the film; it's very disappointing. But read the books; very, very good. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of stuff like was just like I hadn't seen anyone do that. I've seen some legs steam tank
Hmm.
on legs, but
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I've not seen it done that way, and I'll do it myself. And it's a lot of fun. And plus,
Hmm.
painting a tank and treating it like a scale model is a lot more fun because you can actually. I used to be very scared of vehicles, and now I realize you can imbue a lot more character into vehicles
Hmm.
than you actually
Mm-hmm.
realize.
They're a big
No, yeah, I think,
canvas.
yeah, and taking advantage of some of the techniques and such that people have been painting scale planes and tanks for a long time is helpful, and just, yeah, a different thing that you can apply to your models.
Hmm.
Yeah,
All
that's
right,
kind of
yeah.
it for me.
Yeah, well, I think that all sounds good. I guess thanks everybody for listening, and we will talk to you again soon.
Yep. Hopefully, chat to you soon, and hope it helps.
Yeah.
See you, everybody.
Bye.
All right. So that portion is recorded. Good job, everybody.
Pat on the
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. I thought it went
Yeah.
pretty well. Like there's a lot there. And I think
Yeah.
ultimately people as a hobbyist, you just kind of have to figure out what you really like about the hobby in general and try and focus on that. And even if it changes over time, it probably most certainly will. But
Mm-hmm. Actually, Nick, are you ever gonna get that little crab model and convert something with it?
I've sent you some pictures, and I need to
Yeah,
finish my
Oh
Xenos
wait, you're right.
conversion.
You did.
it's
Yeah, I got the little
cool.
crab. Got the
It's
little crab
cool.
model to make a little Xenos race because there's no crab Xenos.
Yeah, I was
So
just looking at your little fish creature there and
yeah, the
thinking,
little fish
Yeah.
abhuman. That was a lot of fun. Surprisingly good conversion followed the hobgoblins from the Dominion set. They
oh
were
yeah.
actually really quite nice. Very easy to convert to 40k or
Mm-hmm.
something else or vice versa. So definitely recommend picking that up.
Yeah, it's great.
But yes, crab was purchased. It was as soon as I saw it, I was like, I must acquire the crab.
Do something with the crab. Which
Yeah.
I guess that's nice that Warhammer Underworlds, they're still kind of releasing sort of off the wall interesting models there that
Hmm.
aren't necessarily something that you would imagine a whole Age of Sigmar army, but then they just open up fun opportunities for conversions and whatnot.
I've seen some amazing conversions just from Underworld models, like Johnny Lashley, I think that is it,
Hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
his
Witchhammer
like
Studios.
Witchhammer Studios. His conversions of the vampire ones is like absolutely incredible. So it's definitely a lot of fun, and also just pick up Necromunda bits. Necromunda has some of the best bits. Like you
Mm-hmm.
might not like the Orlocks, but damn, do they have good exo bits? So sorry, not sorry, really.
Yeah, no, that's true. I feel even the worst GW kids, there's still positives for them, and you could probably do something with
mm-hmm.
even if it's
You got
just a challenge.
You gonna be getting some of those cool Black Templar models?
I'm tempted by the Castellan because it's such a gorgeous model, but I will convert it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm tempted by some of the accessories because there's some very cool accessories. There are also some very terrible accessories in that
Yeah,
accessory
yeah,
kit. We
it's a
won't
really
talk about the
mixed bag.
shotgun, but uh, I don't know. I see like I'm having a little bit of a break from once I've sort of set up this Black Shield Warband. I might have a little bit of a pause on Marines and maybe do a bit of Turnip 28 because again, I
Yeah,
think it's very easy to get Marines saturated in this hobby.
yeah, I feel, but it brings so many likes,
Yeah,
so
I
many
know it brings
likes.
so many likes, but I don't know,
Well,
like the non-marine stuff, I've got very good likes because it's not marine stuff, and it's been quite heartening to see that. I think
That there is
especially
interest.
especially with Age of Sigmar, there's not really. I know Stormcast gets a lot of releases, but actually a lot of the factions get a lot more love than it just constantly being Stormcast. So
hmm
I quite like AOS for that as well.
yeah. Also, getting back to Space Marines,
Hmm.
I was gonna
Yes.
say most of the Black Templar characters I think are actually quite good and are would be nice to do more. Like I think they would fit very well in with like your conversion styles and some of your things. And I think a lot of these newer ones, there most of them are actually posed okay,
Hmm.
less
Uh,
or at least better than some of.
Yeah, I kind of want to get one and do a little with it and paint it as like a Dark Angel or something. But
I think that would be a very easy conversion,
yeah,
actually.
whether I actually do that, I'm not sure.
Well, you know what you need to do? Because you
What?
need to buy the best Forge World Praetor model, the Dark Angels Power Armored
Oh, so
Praetor,
good.
and use that to convert. They're actually the helmet and the bits are pretty nice, actually.
hmm
It's just squatty Marines. No, thank you.
Yeah,
Uh,
no,
so
none of that.
so you could use that and convert them into a Dark Angel very easily. There
I
was that
think
nice Warhammer community article where converting some of the characters they showed with the new Black Templar models were converted into other armies. It was very
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
it's true.
yeah. I think Greg had purchased 3 copies of those Dark Angel Praetors when they came out, and I don't think we have any of them left. We sent them. I think we sent. Did we
Yep.
send some to you?
Yeah, you sent
Okay.
one to me, and that was nice. You sent me an Eisenhorn, which I converted into a
Yeah. Yeah.
Necromunda character.
That
And you sent me
Praetor.
all sorts of that amazing Praetor whose body is still in my bits box.
Good times.
Yeah.
Was the Eisenhorn model, was that the one you converted the sniper?
Yeah, the hazmat sniper with
That
the
I think
little.
that's still one of my favorites of yours. It's just
It
like
was.
there's so
It
much
is cool.
distilled into it, so much character and interesting story elements that you can even just kind of read and figure out from just looking at the model itself. So like, I think it all works together really well. Trying to find it.
Oh,
You make too much stuff, Nick.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm slowed down.
Yeah, it's hard to find it all.
I can't find it. Your little
Somewhere.
illustrations are good too. I must have gone too far.
It kind of gets lost. Sometimes I can't even find my own conversions in Instagram. I'm scrolling through. I'm like, where's this conversion ended up? I don't know where it is.
Hmm. But it is nice that you have kind of that uh timeline of the stuff you've created. Like it's nice that Instagram
Mm-hmm.
can function that way.
Where is it? Gotta find it.
Oh
Oh
wait, I
no, is
found
it?
her.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and that's also the model where you have like the little clear face shield too, right?
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
Amazing.
that was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, your little story is cool too.
Oh, thank you. I love writing like as I said, like
The
I
little
love writing the little
vignettes.
story, little vignettes and sort of stuff. It just it makes it more engaging for me, and it's
Yeah.
part of the
Hmm.
reason I really want to do like more of the story focused games like
Mm-hmm.
Inc. 28 and
Hmm.
Necromunda, and the new Kill Team. I think is very can be very story focused as well. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to try and do that. Have you guys managed to play any of the new Kill Team yet?
I played one game of it, and yeah, it was really fun. And despite it being in like a completely new system, it was really easy
Mm,
to uh you know take out all the rules in. Like it's a pretty simple system with the I go you go and kind of the dice pools and whatnot.
mm,
That yeah, I think it's really easy to pick up, but it has because of the dice pool mechanic. Like I feel you're always causing like doing some damage, and it's more rewarding in that way rather than rolling a whole handful of dice and then them rolling a whole handful of saves and like nothing ever happening.
mm.
Like I feel it's more visceral in that regard. But I would like to play more games, particularly since I have actually painted some Dark Angels,
Well, you have
which
a
that's
system
what
for
I
Battle Kill
used.
Team as well.
Yeah, I used the Dark Angel kill team in the game I played. And yeah, it was fun.
I played my first one. We didn't use any of the stratagems or ploys because we were like, let's keep it as simple as possible. And that was really fun. Even then, I lost horribly, but I also had a lot of fun losing because I realized like, oh, okay, this is how I need to play it better, and
Mm-hmm.
We yeah,
realizing,
we included the ploys or the tactical
mm,
cards or whatever, but like I basically forgot about them. Or I chose poorly. That whichever ones I chose to use didn't really fit the models that I had, and I like scored none of those points. But I think yet maybe getting accustomed to the game without it could be helpful because it can be a lot of stuff to take into and consider when you're still kind of coming to terms with the system as a whole. But I think ultimately their inclusion at some point like is good because it adds
mm,
additional victory sort of conditions that
and like
even if maybe it's not a good matchup,
yeah,
you can focus on things and get
and also the
points.
those stratagems can also mean you can do something like you activate a model, use this stratagem to get them into position or something like that, and it can completely change the game. Like you might be on the back foot, and then suddenly you make this move, you deploy your stratagem card, and then suddenly you're like, oh man, I'm back in the game. And that's what I kind of feel like it's actually always going to be quite close kill team matches because it's
Yeah,
always
no, like
like
the
one
game I
action can
played.
completely change.
Yeah, the game I played actually it was a tie, despite all my models getting killed.
What? Who were you
Um,
playing against?
it was like an Iron Warriors.
Okay.
Oh,
list,
cool.
which I mean, it was just like Chaos Space Marines, but they were. Oh wait, no, they weren't Iron Wars. It was World Eaters. It was World
Oh,
Eaters.
Yeah.
cool.
Sorry, like some kind of Horus Heresy World Eaters. Like yeah, it was fun. And yeah, I
Have you
feel
played
it's
any of it, Adam?
Not yet.
You
we'll
need to
have
get
to
Kill Team ready.
and
Well, I'm still working on it. I feel your Zone Secundus like whole theme like that has been like my driving motivation for like
Oh,
most of what I've done the whole year. Mind you, I feel I've made 4 models, 2 of which are painted, so I'm pretty happy.
yeah. This is a steamroll of the year for you, Adam, at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. So I'm pretty happy with it. And I will continue working on models. And I have yeah, there are a bunch that are kind of in the works at different stages, so it's been kind of nice really. Like I've been since there haven't been events, like I've been slowly working on building this little warband, which I think will hopefully be able to kind of slot sort of nicely into like really any event because it's just like kind of a cool thematic
hmm
Necromunda warband. So but we'll see.
yeah,
And I guess
it'll be
Yeah,
now,
must be.
definitely fun.
yeah, and now I've been working on the little um mercenary model with the plasma gun. I'm
The
almost done with
punk
that one.
mercenary, which is extremely cool. Uh, yeah,
Seems
that
very
reminds me.
fitting for
I have a
cyberpunk.
painted Cawdor Ganger I haven't posted up yet. I don't know why. I finished painting them ages ago, and I realized I should. I'm like, oh, I should post that. And
Hmm.
my eternal quest to turn the Redemptionist kit into something good will continue.
I
Yeah.
mean, you can make cool like one of the models for my Zone Secundus Warband is based on one of them, and like you can make cool stuff with them. It's just right out of the box, they're not what I wanted them to be.
Yeah, they're not
No,
super
the
inspiring.
the weapons are cool. Like the eviscerators, I really like, and
Hmm.
the shotgun is not bad. I did
Yeah.
cut it down,
Hmm.
uh, but I quite like that. And they have stocks. They have very
Hmm.
nice stocks, actually. The guns, which is good, and also, but yeah, like when I made my first Redemptionist, the guy with the where I took that corn guy and I turned him into like a big chainsaw wielding priest
hmm
was a lot of fun. That was actually one of my favorites to work on because I was like, I'm gonna go a completely different vibe here, and Cawdor's quite interesting. So you've not been tempted by Nidvember?
And I I mean, maybe it was even last year, I started converting and sculpting a Tyranid, and I feel I'm going to finish converting this little mercenary, and then I have to dive into drawing holiday cards. Because
Oh yeah, that's true.
the earlier I start, the better, and I haven't figured out what the blog's holiday card is going to be, so I have to figure out that. And
hmm
probably the sooner I finish that, the better, because I can't imagine shipping will be like it was like last year, but it's still probably going to take a long time to get
Yeah.
to send some of the cards and stuff to people
Yeah,
all
yeah,
over
it's
the
No,
not
I
world.
feel
necessarily going
it's can be slow.
to. For me, is I just don't have any inspiration for Nids, unfortunately. They're not my favorite faction. I know Modern Synthesis is going to attack me for this, but I just can't get behind them.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
Or an old
I
streamer
like
killer.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like them. I sort of feel I have a lot of ideas of things that I could do to make them more to my liking, but thus far I haven't found the time where like I sit down and try and do all the stuff. But like
hmm
I think it would be a good project, and like the one I I think started working on last year. Like I was doing a lot of sculpting related to it, so I think it's a good opportunity to practice some of that stuff.
Oh yeah,
So,
you did start making that model.
Yeah. I know Weird Witticism, he's doing a commissioned Tyranid kill team, and that's the coolest variation of
hmm
Tyranids I've ever seen. Very Annihilation inspired, like very almost like a botanical. That's the kind of Tyranids I really, really like very weird, very kind of
mhm,
stuff.
they're cool. They're very cool, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he does a
so
load of really cool stuff.
I think I will eventually do something with the Tyranids, but I have to find the right time to do it. And I
Mm.
feel,
And the right inspiration.
yeah, I feel I'm always my time's being vied for so many different things. So,
hmm
but I
Yep.
just go where the inspiration and the muse takes me. So, like, if I'm again, as we talked about earlier in the podcast, if like I'm not feeling it, I just typically move on to something else.
Yeah, exactly the same for me.
hmm
I just can't wait for things to properly clear up. I want to either come over and visit you guys again, or get you
Yeah.
guys over again.
No, it would be really nice. I feel it will happen eventually,
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
but it is slow.
get you around the brewery.
hmm
Still wearing my Natty Bow t-shirt, repping the best Baltimore beer.
Oh boy, what a beer!
Oh
oh
boy, what
boy,
a
what a
beer!
beer. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
good old Natty Bow.
recently there's like a little an independent brewery in somewhere in Maryland called Brew True Respite or True Respite. They make
Yeah,
like weird beers. Like over the summer, they made one inspired from the emerging the Brood X cicadas. And well,
yeah.
hmm
I found they released a new one called Kiwi, which has like a picture of a kiwi from New Zealand on the front, and it's like
Oh,
some New Zealand inspired thing. Like
Oh,
I had to get them, and I don't know if I really like it, but I like it.
you see,
yeah.
I'm very much on a sour beer hype at the moment. I'm big
Okay.
into my sours. Like,
Mm.
there's a brewery near me called Pastore that only does sour beers, and
Hmm.
Mm.
I love their stuff. So that's me. No more IPAs at the moment. It's all about the sour beers.
Okay.
Okay.
I should send you a picture of the kiwi beer if I have one.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, it sounds fun. Remember Tui when we were in
Yeah,
New Zealand?
yeah.
The
That one of
cheap
their
beer
cheap beers was called Tui. It
for the little
was
Oh,
bird.
That's one of their like native birds called a Tui.
I don't even
was the
really remember it. I think it was just kind of a lager like
Probably.
PBR-ish thing.
yeah.
And we also there
No,
was a beer called Flame.
Yeah.
interesting.
I don't remember
That
anything about it. I think it had a pretty high alcohol content.
maybe it
Oh
even
yeah.
didn't. I don't know. I
There's a
just got pretty
everyone.
trashed on it.
Everyone's just doing tippers and dippers and imperial stouts at the moment. That's the big thing.
Okay.
High alcohol content and more hops than you can shake a stick at.
That does seem to be very common. And I feel also as like the December kind of Christmas season comes on, I feel that's those sorts of like stouts and
Mm.
imperial whatever seems to fit that season.
Oh yeah. I don't know, like some of these tippers and triple IPAs, like I feel like I'm being mugged by a bag of hops in a dark alleyway. They're so strong. So I just like, no, they're not for me. Like I like a little bit of hop, but when it's like I'm eating a hop plant while I'm
Yeah,
drinking,
yeah,
it's
it can
not
be
for
a bit
me.
much.
Yeah.
Well, so there's the one brewery here in the U.S. Like every year around October, they release a beer called Pump King, and it has this cute
Oh.
little pumpkin with a crown on it. And well, this year they released a more of a limited release called Warlock, and there's like
Ooh.
a spooky looking like jack lantern and Warlock. What a cool name!
Yeah, it's
Like,
nice.
Is it any good? Because I had a pumpkin spice beer and it was one of the worst beers I've ever had.
well, so I'm not really. I don't think I really like beer a whole lot, but around October, I like drinking the different pumpkin beers because it seems like a fun thing to do. I don't know if I would say any of them are good, but like I like it. And I
Okay.
like looking with like the one brewery Dogfish Head. Their like symbol is like a little dogfish, one of the small sharks.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
on those like themed beers, the dogfish has little vampire fangs, so it's just
Yeah,
like
it's
I
Oh.
cute.
love that.
Yeah.
So I can't. I don't know. Maybe they were bad, but I kind of
I
like
don't know.
them.
Maybe I've just become too much of a beer hipster now.
Yeah, I don't have a refined palate.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm not like it's not like I'm a wine sommelier where I'm like sitting around there like spinning the beer and being like,
Whirl it.
I'm getting hints of chicory and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the mustache twirling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of that stuff, like beer and like alcohol and whiskey and stuff, like I like the notion of it, and I think like some of it's cool, the process, all the stuff that goes into making it, and I really like seeing people really excited about it. But I don't know. I feel I've have more of a taste for it now than I did, but I still wouldn't say that I think any of it's good. My favorite whiskey that I've had is a in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They have a brewery there that focused mainly on whiskey called Wiggle Whiskey, and they have
Okay.
a ginger like
Ooh.
infused whiskey that's like I actually like that. That's good. It's good. Um,
Mhm. I don't know. Maybe we should think about calling this to a close. I feel we've
Hmm.
started to verge far off.
Far off the topic. Yeah, and I probably should go have some lunch, and you probably
yeah,
guys need some breakfast or
Yeah,
something.
something like that. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for joining us in this chat this morning or midday for you. It's always good to
hmm
have you, Nick.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. I love
hmm
it's always good to catch up with you guys and
Yeah.
talk about topics.
hmm
Cool. I guess, and also thanks everybody for watching and viewing. It's
Mm-hmm.
been a pleasure. Keep on enjoying the hobby. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you again soon.
And back
Over
Yeah.
and out.
Cyborg on Kickstarter.
Yeah,
That's
it's
true.
true.
Yep.
Kickstarter, Cyborg, Cyberpunk, role playing.
Morkborg.
If you like
Yeah.
Morkborg, you'll probably like this.
hmm
Yeah. See everybody.
See
Yep.
ya.
See ya.